Enkarandi soldier ala karuoro.
We were trained as a soldier for 6 months.
Inarankarandi intelligence officer ala fana okono karuoro kono.
In those 6 months also, I was also trained as an intelligence officer.
So our Charles Taylor Liberia.
Charles Taylor was preparing to go to Liberia.
So ani Gambian odol tara.
And he had already gone with some Gambians.
Like who?
Menkamunta Juma ni Juma.
Menkamunda ko General Jackson, Mustafa Makaroni.
And Mustafa Makaroni.
Welcome to another episode of A Gambian Mercenary from Liberia. Today we bring you the story of Mbalo Kanteh, also known as Mbalo Kanteh, Abubakar Kanteh, or Nelson Mandela in Liberia. But before we go further, please, may I ask you of a little favor? Can you subscribe and like the channel, because this is the best channel with regards to commentary and matters on the TRRC. Now back to our protagonist, Mbalo Kanteh. Mbalo Kanteh's story is a good example of how conflicts can reshape identities and allegiances in a very unpredictable way. He was born in Gambia, but his journey into the heart of Liberia's civil war was far from conventional. It began in Libya, but that left too many unanswered questions.
Mr. Kanteh, is it Mbalo or is it Balo?
Mr. Kanteh, Mbalo lembang for Balo.
Alo fulo le ka Mbalo, but amanke word Mbalo Kanteh.
It is the fuller pronunciation who used to say Mbalo, but it is Balo.
Thank you very much. What's your date of birth and place of birth?
Ela wulu sang bulun jumal di anu wulu ta sate jumal to.
The wulu Gambia la independent.
I was
1965.
I was born in the year of the independence.
Well, 1965 sangoni.
Bora Jara Pakalindi.
I'm from Jara Pakalinding.
Do you know the day and the month?
Ela wulu sangoni ngala lungo nyingana la sang ala karoni yalo ne bang.
Hani na rawala.
No, I have forgotten about that.
Did you go to school?
Itara tuab karangola la bang.
Ani nanaman singolo karamu
I have never stepped in a school.
What did you do as a profession?
Yamuna ke ka tombong ye baluo kono ka kela metiodi.
Dela baluo kono ninde manu mfama en samba daralto.
When I was a child, my father took me to the Dara, the local madrasa.
Jara Kanuma.
At Jara Kanuma. I went to the same Dara with people like Bakausu.
Bakausu Fofana.
I hope you don't do the disappearing act.
Well, people are not equal. God has endowed some people with something.
So after that Dara in Kanuma?
Brio Dara Karonge Kanuma.
And Dara Kanuma for 81.
I was at that Dara in Kanuma up to 1981. That's the time when I left that place.
So Rantara Baim Gambian in Senegal Temangaranu Tia Urol. So the Domani Sorensina Kanuma Waro Senegal.
Well, after that, after the Dara, I started going around between the Gambia and Senegal. What we usually do is when it's time to dig out groundnuts from the farm, I go and dig groundnuts for people and they pay me. If I have something, I come to Kanuma. After some time, I return to Senegal. In those days, there were no digging machines.
And you did that for how long?
For around 86, 87.
I was doing that up to 86, maybe till 87.
As a young man, he left Gambia like other young people to travel abroad and make a better life for himself and his family. Next, he found himself in Libya, and there something happened that changed his fate forever. He was captured in a government raid on immigrant communities and taken forcefully into the military training camp. These camps had people from all over the world. It was in this camp he met people like Charles Taylor from Liberia, Dr. Mane from the Gambia, and Fode Sanko from Sierra Leone. These chance encounters with rebels from other parts of the world brought Balo into the orbit of Charles Taylor, the Liberian warlord whose rebellion would plunge Liberia into chaos. Alongside other Gambian recruits, Balo embarked on a harrowing journey through North and West Africa to join Taylor in the brutal conflicts in Liberia. What makes Balo's story particularly striking is the irony of his position. Balo is a Mandingo from the Mandingo hardline of Jara, a bedrock of opposition to the government in power in the Gambia. This same Mbalo Kanteh, a Mandingo man, might have been expected to align with Samuel Doe or Ulemo faction with strong Mandingo and Kran representation. Instead, he fought for Taylor's NPFL, directly opposing Ulemo and his own ethnic kin. This defiance of traditional alliances underscores the complexities of war, where survival often takes precedence over ethnic or political loyalty. Balo's journeys illustrates the unpredictable nature of conflicts. His story serves as a reminder that the lines between allied and foe are often unclear and shaped by forces far beyond an individual's control.
When did you first come into contact, or when did you first get involved with Kukoy Samba Sanya?
Ila inin Kukoy la nyo soto follow keta wadi jumalti.
That question is very good. I left this country in 1988.
December.
In December.
Libya.
I went on a travel and I went to Libya.
So Libya.
When I arrived in Libya,
so
I was there trying to find something.
So now in
that time, during that finding something,
at
that time Libya was in a war with Chad.
So the
year that Gaddafi took over in a coup,
and
the month he did it,
September 1st,
was September 1st.
So
whenever that month comes back again, if you are in Libya in those days, whether you are in the capital or in a remote village,
so
they follow people
arrest by force,
and they arrest people by force. They take you to Minto,
military camp,
they take you to a military camp
to
train you there by force.
And
after the training, they'll take you to the war front, because in those days they were fighting with Chad.
So
whether you like it or not, but if they catch you, they will take you.
Was this limited to foreigners, or Libyans were also subjected to the same treatment?
For Nyindung, banku memang ke banku dingol dronde wol dronnam bang fo hani Libya dingol fanon da ba kono da bang.
Hani Libya dingol fanon da ba kono bara sembe ma kake foreigner solare.
Libyans were also involved, but the majority of the people who were treated like that were foreigners.
Proceed.
And then?
Yo, sa ni samba wo beso nyindo.
If they take you to that base,
so ni arrest wonya ye samba beso so you call training.
And when you reach the base, they will start training you.
What's the name of the base?
O base ni ngatodu.
The base fular be do be je ka je Tajura ka do Wadu Arabia.
There are two bases. One is called Tajura and the other one is called Wadu Arabia.
So you can more somebody in base fuller.
These are the two bases where they take people for training.
So the
moment you enter those bases, one of them,
rebel Africa kono bage.
In those days, there were many rebel movements in Africa.
But Mr. Witness, are you aware that there was another base called the Maktaba?
Ko sedo fo nyim fanan kalamutal base do be ka me di Maktaba.
Mataba wo komisa officer komisa ni ko ja NIA.
Mataba is just like an office, like in the Gambia here, if you say NIA.
NIA sa nyim besol bebe o Mataba la nyino kono.
And these military bases were all under the jurisdiction of Mataba.
So it will marra president fanala kuala fana.
And they were also responsible for the affairs of the president.
Are you aware that it was at the Maktaba that the senior African revolutionaries were trained?
Ako fo nyin kalamutala ko nyin Maktaba dingira nyin. Nyin African Liberation kelelal nyin ila nyaton kol nyin ye karandi wala do.
Yes, I know that very well.
So
I will clarify that point.
Proceed, please.
So
That Mataba, as I said, they were responsible for presidential affairs. Anything that is a military matter or intelligence, they are responsible for all.
So
those people were very powerful in the country, in Libya.
So training
even during those training in those bases, still they are responsible for all of that training and the base itself.
Because we are on training now Campoldo.
Because when we were undergoing the training at those camps,
the president would always hearing.
Some presidents are sitting today.
No training.
We did training with some of those people.
Can you give us examples?
Example like Idrissa Deby.
People like Idrissa Deby, who was in charge.
Idris Deby.
Idris Deby.
So ani Mandela no model waro Mandela bulano.
Plus people who were Mandela's people, because in those days Mandela was not yet released.
There was Charles Taylor in Maktaba.
Charles Taylor abenu Maktaba leba.
Mina.
Yes, I'm coming.
Proceed.
Waro ni daro Mataba kono ika ni African leaders ul mo Jamaica ul letra Mataba dunia fanna be ni dunda je ka hadama dingo jibe le fo nyaida.
In those days, there are many African leaders who went through Mataba, and many people also from many parts of the world. If you go into Mataba, you see people until you become puzzled.
So
that's where you come to know that the world is very large. Because you find all kinds and types of people in there. Even in Asia, up to Kurdistan and many others, you find them there.
So Charles Taylor
and Charles Taylor was also there with his people.
So
they were all in that camp. Up to Kukwe Sambasanyang.
How about Sanko?
Sanko.
Yes, Fode Sanko was also there. We all did the training together there. Plus the present sitting president of Rwanda.
You mean Paul Kagame?
Paul Kagame.
Yes, Paul Kagame.
But
he was not their original leader. The first leader died.
So no one be training.
We did training with all those people.
And
many people. There are people whom you don't know, you don't even know where they came from.
But what was the purpose of all this?
Jamal Beje men yaran ko e malla fi komisa enila banko president wol membe sire o time o ni problème o soto so e lafta e borna e nara lebe lafta pour que la o man sa kewul bondi.
The main reason for that is many of the people who were at Mataba were there. They ran away from their countries because they were not in good terms with the sitting presidents in their own countries. So their intention is to come to Mataba, do their training. If they have support, they will go and overthrow the government that they left behind.
So ani Chenia bala banko membe yeva nol Hussein Farhadi.
And near Kenya, there is a country, and somebody called Hussein Farhadin was also with us there.
Somalia.
Somalia.
No for another from be training.
We did training there with him and his people.
Waro I left call a president. I left all the bondlano.
He said the sitting president at that time. That's the person they wanted to remove.
I go dictator Fulolam.
He was a fuller man and he was a dictator.
Siad dictator
Siad Barry, yes.
So I left all the
they wanted to topple him.
Do you have an idea what was in this for Libya, for Gaddafi?
Si fay londo so ñin to ba mun Gaddafi mun nafale baye ñin kuoto
Gaddafi nafa men baye Nigeria rat lafta mena pra sembo so Africa kono don ala sembo so Africa kono because waro anin tubabol mambenda.
What I observed in those days was Gaddafi, what he wanted in Africa was that to become one of the most powerful leaders in Africa, because in those days he was not in good terms with the Europeans.
Okay, how did you find yourself in one of these camps, Tajura or Waju Arabia? How did you find yourself there?
Saying it not an infant Taradino in Kafulo, Tajura and Wajura. Not an infant
Tajura and
Wad Arabia.
What Arabia, not an infant in Kafulo Donyadi.
I know you've told us that September 4th anniversary, they make a sweep and arrest people.
Now, for September follow a campaign do will in the Kamul Muda. So, Karandi Kitrinindi.
What all I enter arrest no?
It was during those days that I was arrested.
So Yensamba companion do.
And I was taken to the camp.
Which one?
Yensamba Wad Arabia.
I was taken to Wad Arabia.
So were you the only Gambian captured at this time?
Oh, what all I tell random Gambian dingo de member about what all.
And you
I was not alone. We were many there.
Give us names.
Told in the Banis.
Do to phone o man ko ka fa falwalo jeyte bato badule badu nyinata badu sadon ba keba nyim banda waro fon keba dale.
There was one person called Falalo Jaite from Badibu. Falalo Jaite, who came from Badibu. In fact, I forgot which village in Badibu. And in those days, in fact, he was very old, and now he is passed away now.
And who else?
And in Juma.
And Kabiro Dembajang.
And people like Kabiro Dembajang.
Dembajalo.
Dembajang.
Kabiro Dembajang.
Kabiro Dembajang.
Jang.
Jang, yes.
Okay, and who else?
And in Juma.
Kata Bakai Drame.
Plus Bakai Drame.
You will be arrested for somebody in Lando.
Where those people were also arrested.
Nakulo, you know, because time on you.
These are the people I can remember for the time being, because it was a long time.
Were you only 5?
No, we were more than that.
So ini men karata nyola bage kawol dole long fang domande.
We were many there, because in fact in one camp you will find some Gambians on this side and some Gambians on the other side. And in fact some were also arrested and taken to the other camp, Wadu Arabia.
And for how long did you train in Libya?
Nin train ni bare nyin karango nyi ay wati jellelta ay be train kan.
Bare ngaje ko sai akundura mantaf.
After I realized that, well, there is no way to way. I cannot take myself out of that place. Because if I want to take myself out, today I would not have been here to talk to you people. Because in those days, these Arabs, as they call them in Mandinka Sula, to kill people, That is nothing to them.
So purgan niya kanda.
To safeguard my own life,
nara ajibe ko mbar nga continue in training.
I said, let me continue with this training.
So nara continue nara training karuoro.
Then we went on the training for 6 months.
Yan karandi soldier ala karuoro.
We were trained as a soldier for 6 months.
Nara karandi intelligence officer ala fana o kono karuoro kono.
In those 6 months also, I was also trained as an intelligence officer.
So ngain belondo so ala ma ko ngain belondo so fana.
So with the help of Allah, I was able to gather some experience during the training.
Did you speak Arabic?
Domande.
Well, a little bit.
In what language was the training carried out?
Karandiro ni kake ning kanjumalla.
Kake Arabu kangola.
You do it with Arabic, in Arabic.
Okay, proceed please.
And then?
What did you do when you finished training?
Iye munake bring ning karang ning training ning botala.
Bring training botala.
After the training.
So what training yung kono?
During the training.
So our Charles Taylor Liberia.
Charles Taylor was preparing to go to Liberia.
So biratara.
When he left and went,
at that
time we were in the camp.
But
by then he had already left with his people.
So ani Gambian tara.
And he had already gone with some Gambians.
Like who?
Menkamunda Jumani Juma.
Menkamunda ko General Jackson.
People like General Jackson.
What's his Gambian name?
A Gambian Todum.
Jerakoli.
Yes,
Mustafa Macaroni.
And Mustafa Macaroni.
Mustafa Macaroni, what's his Gambian name?
A Gambian Todum.
Mustafa Atom Mustafa Mustafa Akondong for Mustafa for Mustafa Jibara.
Well, I cannot remember exactly his surname, but it might be Jiba.
Who else?
Aninjuma.
Mustafa, did he also become a general?
For Mustafa Varanara general Otilaba.
Yes, later on.
So I name Mustafa Jallo.
And somebody also called Mustafa Jallo. But his real surname is not Jallo. His surname, real surname is Sanyang. He is from Ndemban.
So Domingo.
Somebody
Domingo
called
or Domingo?
Domingo.
But we were told very Kuko Kabijawara Kudera failed a word at Guinea-Bissau.
He got that name during the time when Kukoi wanted to coup the Jawara government. After its failure, they ran and went to Guinea-Bissau.
So I also.
That's where he got that name. But his real name is Mamadou Cissé and he's from Nyomi.
All right. So Charles Taylor has gone to Liberia. That must have been in '89.
Charles Taylor
together with
Liberia.
Gambians.
As a Ken over 1989, and in Gambia Dumodol.
So the brother Liberia 89.
When he went to Liberia in 1989.
So 91.
In 91.
So Kukoi Narandol Bonanja in Samba.
And that's the time when Kukoi came back for us and took us along.
Why did you have to go with Kukoi?
Mune asabu ini Kukoi taranyola.
Well, what I at a sembo sort of live and Dolman Council here because Sembo Baraba and Kadafi and Yolong, I sembo on the war on Dolbe Cambo and Fambon.
In those days, he was acquainted with Gaddafi and he was powerful. And in those days, we were poor and, well, we had no means. We were just in the camp like that.
Would your understanding of the situation be that you guys were trained elements to be used in Gambia and Kukoi was your leader?
Ila fahamure nyine dila ko atul yal tala yal karandi kake molti mi yalon koy be ina fa lalla ya bondi Libya kal nati Gambia jang Kukoi taral ko makar ale purale na boy kangola jang Kukoi taral ko.
You've gone a bit further than I have suggested.
Okay.
They were trained elements to be used later in the Gambia under the leadership of Kuko Isamba Sall.
Ko yal karandile o karandro nyin ko la yenane binane munafannalla buru Gambia kama.
Did Kuko as their leader?
Nun Kuko la mal la nyaron kodi atara bal koma.
Aha. Yes.
Good. So in 1991
song
Kuko came to Libya and decided to take you with him, right?
Natan Libya and
to remove you from there.
Another nanying kango soto kango ta ko purkal bondi je al bondi Libya.
Another bondi Libya.
Yes, he took us out of Libya.
Where did he take you?
Al samba mindole.
Go nga fon nakuma kongo waro ni rebel wo ko be hewre Africa kono bage.
Just as I said before, in those days there were many rebel wars in Africa.
So ye contact also in Algeria.
They had contact with Algerians.
So waro ika contact also it will damal ka contact also bankul ka contact also damal tema.
In those days, they used to have contacts with countries, between them and certain countries. Before you go into any country, the sitting president in that country will be made aware of it before you enter that country. Whether you are coming by air or whether you are coming by land, so wherever you are supposed to go, any country that you are supposed to enter, the president will be aware, and the person who is supposed to receive you people will also be alerted.
So
So we were made to board a plane in Libya at their main airport. In those days, if you are supposed to board a plane and leave Libya, and if you are an ordinary civilian, leave that country was very, very tedious in those days.
Even foreign currency,
because in those days, they don't want anybody to go out with any foreign currency.
So, foreign currency,
well, there were some people, they had means how to take out foreign currency in those days.
Yeah, for a money back.
If they tell you, it's sometimes very, very difficult. Something like your own money that you have sweated for, to take it out of that country in those days was not a joke.
So, but
when we were going out,
it
does look like we were diplomats.
So a plane was
brought until to the point where we were supposed to board, and we were not even searched.
No, Algeria.
This is how we boarded the plane, and we were taken to Algeria.
In
those days, the government which was in Algeria was aware of our coming to the country.
So,
even before we disembarked from the plane, the person who was supposed to receive us at the airport, we found him there. He had already arrived. Now, who was there?
Because
Because the person who was at the airport at that time was not informed about us, because just about the intelligence matter that I said. Because some governments do not like their affairs to be known by certain people.
So
when we disembarked, we were taken into a hall, and made to spend the night there, but we didn't even have dinner.
How many of you?
We were a little bit many. I was there.
Kabiro
Dembajang,
Blai
Sonko,
Suwandi
Kamara,
Emo Jallo, Buba Jallo, Bamba Drame.
Bamba Drame.
But he can't find Wa Drame.
But he's called Wa Drame. These are the people I can remember.
Bakai Drame.
Bakai Drame.
And
we were some of the people at that at the airport that time.
Okay.
So during Jiraye,
when we disembarked,
so Somanda
that morning,
the
person who was giving our information, when he came, when he saw us, he didn't talk to anybody. He knew that we were the people.
So
when he arrived and saw us, he said, come, come. He said that in Arabic, like Tala, come.
So
when we came, he took us to a hotel. They gave us breakfast. They gave us everything.
So and
then later on we were taken to a place inside the hotel there where we were supposed to stay before the arrival of another plane which was supposed to take us away from there.
So
we were there. We had lunch. We had dinner there. Immediately after dinner, another plane arrived. When it came, we boarded that plane again.
So
we were taken directly to Burkina Faso.
So
when we were arriving at Burkina, it was late at night. We disembarked at Burkina Faso at the airport. When we arrived there too, people, the road that people usually take and the road that we took, they were different. Well, what happens is, wherever we go, the normal route that normal passengers are taken by is always different from the route that they take us through.
You were given priority, correct?
Because Dakoro be the Malde, Kofmenol the Maldan, Gajim Bangol Mangang, Dakoro be the Maltemer.
Yes, things were made easy for us because these governments and these countries that we were supposed to go to, they were hearing from one another, they were in communication.
Bangol be Mengatamba.
All those countries that we went through, they all knew about Charles Taylor. Because before any country that he passes through, they were all supporting him. If they don't support him, we wouldn't have gone through their country. The reason for us to go through their country is they were supporting him. This is why we go through these countries without encountering any problem.
So when we reached Burkina, so many received water.
The people who received us at Burkina, we didn't have any problems there.
So presidential motor.
And in fact, we met presidential vehicles standing and waiting for us.
So
we boarded those vehicles.
So they
looked for a place for us. They called the place Moro Naba.
So
they took us to a compound in that place.
So
our feeding, lunch, breakfast, and dinner.
So
Kukoi was responsible for it. He knew where he was getting it from. But the government was also aware of our being there. Because time to time they send in soldiers who will come and check on us so that we will not have any problems. We were there like that
for almost curriculum.
Up to maybe 1 month.
So curriculum
by the end of that 1 month,
Charles Taylor Liberia.
But by that time, Charles Taylor has come from Liberia.
Another Burkina Faso.
He came to Burkina Faso.
So
when he came there,
so
he was there.
So inada fo nyo purun na ita nyola.
And then we were informed to accompany
Ko
him.
nyo ko nyantan sambala.
They said yes, he should take us along.
So bari janni wo bekela no.
But before that,
So yambulani nun train la no waro janni mbira o plane ola no.
we were made to board a train before we boarded that plane,
Pour kata Ivory Coast.
so that we will go to Ivory Coast.
So bara nara mistake o do so siloga.
On the way, we had a mistake or a problem on the way.
Birum futata fo border ro.
When we reached the border,
Abo Burkina Faso kata Ivory Coast border.
from Burkina Faso to the border of Ivory Coast,
So comme ça inyanta kangudi la nyola nyame.
the way that they should have communicated to each other,
So communication o mamfuta no time.
there was a breakdown of communication at the time we arrived.
Dinara fo ntedu no la bat ngamurna.
They said we cannot go into Ivory Coast, then we had to turn back.
Nara murondo na wala nyama.
This is how they brought us back again.
Murna na Burkina.
We went back to Burkina.
So amanna tambe tili dandandro.
Just a few days after that,
So Charles Taylor na.
Charles Taylor came,
Ba Burkina la plane ola ka samba.
because he's always carried by a plane belonging to the Burkina government.
So bira.
When he was going,
So kuko kai ko na nyunu samba.
Kukoi told him that take these people along.
At this stage, have you met Kukoi?
Wot fo watola fo inim kuko enyo jele ba.
Waronde nga kuko ejele.
Yes, because by that time I had already seen Kukoi.
Waronde kai nga kuko je kabiri liwe fokana fo Burkina.
I saw Kukoi since in Libya all the way up to Burkina.
Is he known by any other name in his business out there?
Kuko, you mean?
Yes.
Yes.
Kuko fo ya to ya lon to do la ba ngala du ko be kono ba.
Ha ka ba go Dr. Samba Sanyang.
Yes, he's also known as Dr. Samba Sanyang.
How about this? Does he have another name apart from Dr. Samba?
Ninga boda Dr. Samba Sanyang na photo do ko tembala la ba.
Fala en kuko to nga worono lo.
Just his Kukoi name, that's what I know.
Do you know a person called Dr. Mane?
Fo mo to lo na ba ka me Dr. Mane.
Ha nyina dal ha ka kumande wo fanala.
Yes, I forgot. He's also known as Dr. Mane.
Kumande wo fanala.
Yes, they call him by that name also.
Has he ever asked you whether? Has he ever asked for your consent to participate in this enterprise that you were about to embark upon?
Fo anana case in le banque nyinin ka fo ila dunyo be jele bang pour que dabula nyin ko to ba nyin do ko nyin to ba fa anana ke nyinin kala ba fa ku de dunyo to ba
Nyen ko akata forcer ro ko wala do.
Well, this thing was just like a force on us.
So because bere na training ke ay minute dinda na raja ko bare akata forcer ro ko do bara na randa fa ma koy.
Yes, after our training, we were made to join them, just like in a force. But later on, it helped me.
Bara na ro londi fenam nan mamira na balwo ko ba den nan mamira ndala mol faul nan man siko ndebe sojari yakarana wala mbe intelligent kana ndala mol faul nan man si yow mere la balwo fon kono fon.
Because my people, they do not even imagine somebody like me will become a trained soldier up to the level of becoming an intelligence officer. My people never even thought about that.
Ba bringa kara ngawo londol soro.
But after the training and I had the experience,
so kabirin sojari ala karola kara intelligent na karola.
From the level of a soldier up to the level of an intelligence officer.
All londol ale mako londol to ba.
Yes, Allah helped me to have something in those areas.
So ultimately you boarded that plane and went to Liberia.
amunda ko nyi nyala bang al nar na bulaw kulunti la altara Liberia banko kan
Birin bulara kulendi la Burkina Faso.
Yes, when we boarded that plane in Burkina Faso,
Manta Liberia directly.
we didn't go to Liberia directly.
Jira Ivory Coast le.
We landed at Ivory Coast.
Kaboje ma.
The place is called Ma.
Was at Ove Buanya Besiri.
Because it was their president was Hufwe Buanyi.
So at ofana ubora unsavo Charles Taylor bulba.
I can say he was the right-hand man of Charles Taylor.
So because the less support fenga beka bona nana roda beka jara ni kodwar.
Because the support we were receiving and anything that comes to us all comes through Ivory Coast.
So
when we landed there,
so in presidential vehicle Charles Taylor found a vehicle and Africa la soldier role.
So Charles Taylor's own vehicles, presidential vehicles, and vehicles belonging to soldiers in Ivory Coast.
So
we boarded those vehicles.
So by the Charles Taylor escort, Africa soldier role escort for Liberia.
Because when Charles Taylor goes there, he is always escorted by Ivory Coast soldiers up to the point of entering Liberia.
Because he can't to airport, but the airport remember.
But because they wait for him at the airport, but the airport at Ma is not an airport whereby all planes can land there.
So comes a secret quality.
It looks like a secret airport.
So they
don't like people to be aware of what's happening there. So planes land there mostly in secret.
So that's
how we went through and went into Liberia.
Where were you taken to first in Liberia?
Liberia.
When we entered Liberia, we went to Lukato. That's the first border.
So we met
Yankuba Samate there.
Yankuba
Samate by Kaba Yanks.
Yankuba Samate, but they called him as Yanks.
Yanks,
proceed, please.
We met him there.
So another pick up all
he took us on board a pickup late in the evening.
I samba Banga.
He took us to Banga.
Charles Taylor City.
That's Charles Taylor's city.
So
Banga. Proceed, please.
So
we were there. When we were at Banga.
So
when it is in terms of food, because in Liberia they eat only once in a day, only lunch. Breakfast is not much known, but they have facilities. Because they are very well endowed. Whatever people need in other countries, they have a lot of it.
So let's cut this a little short. You are ultimately integrated into the NPFL.
Yes.
And you fought in Liberia for Charles Taylor.
Yes.
And in 1996, you decided to leave Liberia, correct?
Yes.
Why did you want to leave?
Reason for having that idea
was
it was Kukoy who took us out from there.
So I am someone Senegal.
He brought us to Senegal.
Because idea Jammeh coup d'etat.
The reason for that, he later had that Yaya Jammeh has toppled the then government in the country.
So another in Liberia.
And he took us out of Liberia
and Senegal
and brought us into Senegal.
So the mission of Senegal.
Our mission for coming to Senegal was to come and topple Yaya Jammeh's government. But before reaching that point, because when we were in Liberia,
1994.
We heard that there was a coup in 1994.
So that decided
Then we decided that we don't like the idea of a coup.
So
So when we were there, we were taken to a place called Kari.
After another samba lado beje campo to another samba.
We are talking to another camp, which the camp's name I cannot remember. Because when we were in Liberia,
so we
were divided. Because it was it's a big country. Some were taken to this other side, so others were taken to other sides. I ended up at Lukato.
Then in Farmer Koli.
Myself and Farmer Koli.
And Baba Job Doma Sirif Bajob.
And Baba Job's younger brother called Sirif Bajob.
Then all Lavanda Lukato.
We were the people who lasted at Lukato.
Bawaro Bechelora Charles Taylor man.
But when we were fighting for Charles Taylor, because me alone, the amount of people I lead were up to 1,500 people.
What was your rank?
Captain.
I was a captain by then.
Proceed, please.
So,
I used to be with them in the bush. Up to 3 months. But around that time, among those 1,500 people,
so I
can say in that group I was the only Gambian there.
So
because in those days I was the only person also who can lead that group.
Special forces.
Because we were special forces.
In which language were you speaking with them?
So Manda school or
I didn't go to formal school, but when I went there,
so I'm broken English.
They are broken English.
So I
tried and delved into that until I was able to say something.
So
that helped me. Yeah, like English, the English language. It went up to a time, up to a level whereby I listen to the BBC and I understand their news. And I've never been to school.
So
really, that was a big help for me.
So
that's the language I use with them.
But they
have their own indigenous languages.
So
within those people, I chose some bodyguards.
So but
my bodyguards there were all female. Because the males, I don't trust them.
So
there were 18 women.
So
they were my bodyguards.
Liberia was nice, wasn't it?
Yes.
Liberia was a nice place.
Because domoro karo comme ça ñim dama fefe fen domoro karo subol tem fen ko ton bananol ananasol fen ko be ala nemare mala je canal don itol buka sama soro waro men na da man si adal.
Because in those days in Liberia,
because han sign thing ni be December sama ikasoro demande.
Allah has really helped them. You have a lot of food, bananas, especially fruits, bananas, ananas and other things. They were plentiful in Liberia in those days, meat and everything. You can eat anything that you want.
You were a chief in your own fiefdom.
Yes, because comme ça mbesiren te nyamen mbesiren wo nyama na bori karo garra loren dandangole ni kido.
Yes, because just as I am sitting here, my bodyguards will be standing around me with arms and they used to guard me like that.
So but
that's how I was living there. But I had a wife there. She's always at home, but she's also a civilian. I was there with her.
So whenever
I come from the bush,
So na soldier role bulaji.
I leave my soldiers there.
Nina bodyguard role kana so hono.
I come with my bodyguards to the home.
Ngartaje till dandang.
I'll spend some days at home.
So after ngana amuru ulo hono.
And then later go back into the bush.
What was your Liberian name?
Your Liberian todum.
Dol ka fanya Nelson Ghana, but dol jama je ka fanya Nelson Mandela.
Some of them call me Nelson Ghana, but many of them also call me Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
Because Nelson Mandela.
The reason why I acquired that name, Nelson Mandela, because of the difficulties I encountered during the training and in the bush. This is why they gave me that name.
Okay, so now let's move on to the period you now had to leave Liberia for the first time.
Ngabo fanala for what I not for what me along ko ina ibora Liberia sinya follow.
Okay, bring budaro bring darra Lukato.
When we were at Lukato,
so darra kelo laji.
We were fighting.
So atara for starting how the time o me go ekomo kelo bulo ulende no Charles Taylor kam.
Up to the time when Ecomog decided to attack Charles Taylor's forces.
So waron debe Lukato ba waro ndeni nimmen be Lukato walam Sirif Bajo ba nim famaro koli.
At that time I was at Lukato with Sirif Bajo and Famarakoli.
So waro walam border main border ka damando use na kidolu kesolu domoro everything be ka tambani je.
Because that was the main border where our arms, ammunition, food, it all passes through that border. When our things come into Ivory Coast, they pass through, all of those things pass through that border. So this is why if you ask Hufet Buanyi,
where would we ask him? Proceed, please.
Okay,
if
you ask him when Charles Taylor was going in, where did he pass through? He will say that I haven't seen him today, I haven't seen him tomorrow. Because if the drummer steps on top of the drumming stick, nobody will beat that drum. Because he was aware of everything, because at that time he had a problem with Samuel Doe. Because Samuel Doe promised to topple him. Samuel Doe used to tell Fufe Buanyi that I will topple your government. And Fufe Buanyi told him that you are a small boy, it's just now that you sat on this chair. And Samuel Doe said, the day that I'm going to topple you.
Buanyi told Doe.
It will soon be time for me to topple you. I'll come and drink water in your palace. So this is why when Charles Taylor came out from Rawlings' support,
Thomas Sankara,
up to before Blaise toppled Sankara,
and
after Sankara, when Blaise took over, he also continued to support Charles Taylor. And plus Houphouët Boigny and the Algerian president. And even in Europe, he had support from many countries. Like Italy.
Yes, it is quite interesting and very fascinating, but we have to move forward. So tell us why you had to leave Liberia for the first time. I know, Mr. Chair, this is quite interesting, history and West African politics, but we have to move on to the issues.
Comme wala nyindi go e be mem fanna men sata kantenga fanna me alan ko nyabo warta bakel anno ko maya bada bur moyela moyala kadum tariko anim politiko la karola bere ata je bak but hanin ka bi sila ngata wato men e bora Liberia.
And Mr. Chair, I also want to avoid too much this particular topic because of my present situation, in the other hat that I wear. So I do not want any issue of conflict to come in. It is unlikely, but I just have to stay away from this topic. Proceed, please, and tell us how the decision was made for you to come to Gambia and what was your purpose for coming.
Silang afonya bang kangol inara na kauta nyadi le puru ina Gambia andung kangol nyintano ta nyadi le puru yebo Liberia kana Gambia.
This question is very good.
So decision nyintara Kukoi Sampasanya.
The decision was made by Kukoi Sambasanya. He's the person who came and told us that. He said I want to go to Gambia because the coup that took place there.
So
he also wants to remove that government.
So did he say why?
So dalilo
Reason that he stated was
the dalilo me using tolkan no time about fall about 4 malo.
Reason he gave us in those days, I don't know whether that was his real motive or not.
So I didn't know kudeta call Africa call rebel call sign.
Because he told us that in Africa nowadays rebellions and things like coup d'etats,
it
is now coming to a time when those things will not be accepted anymore in Africa.
So
this is what he told us, but I don't know whether that was his intention or not.
Was he really genuine in view of the fact that he's used you in Liberia from 1991 to 1996 for the same purpose?
Liberia kabo 1996 kara
1991
1996.
We stated that just like that. But if you are somebody who is being manipulated by somebody else,
so it you
cannot do anything by yourself. Especially if you are not educated. Sorry to say this, but those who attended formal schooling, sometimes they are cunning.
So Purkan Dol Sifal Takulo Nyama can Samba Onyama Isila Londo use no lay Kumal Fonya Barin Dolmanda Karamoto. So it's in Sambano and Isla Janet Del Bakalamara Buru a mistake also.
To people like me who has not done any formal schooling, so those with school education can be able to tackle us and take us along into certain things.
So where did he take you?
So Brian before we left there. So Sirif Bajo Baba Job's brother was Ngafo Barmanulam. They are my uncles. Himself and Baba, they are my uncles. Our villages are very close to water. In fact, my grandmother came from their village. Because Baba's father and in the Mama Chow plus my grandfather. So all the Kambane they were age mates. So for Mama Chow Naramuso up to the point that my grandfather decided to marry somebody from their village. This is why I call them uncle. So Sirubana Rafonyago Nimba Kukoi Bal Karakampurkal somebody. Then Sirifba told me that Kukoi is planning to take you people away. And if he takes you away, he will leave you there. And you cannot come back here. Because we didn't heed his words, because for the last 7 years, your people don't know where you are. So and you were suffering there.
Were you really suffering there? You were a king in some part of the jungle.
fo to nyara nyabe badare njele no kato ite kita molde me alonko ite mu nyaton kolti ay la moldol molda
ite mu mansale tunum
amunda e mansake male be wulo ko no ji
mansala munde babu yalo ko mandingol ko iro mera ba ko no nyaw ba bambaya.
Well, I was like a king there, but as the Mandinka proverb goes...
Let me ask you, Mr. Kanteh, did you listen to the testimony of Mr. Damfa?
Ko fo ela moy Mr. Damfa la sedandiro la jamba.
No, amandraja.
No, I was
Did you listen to it on the radio?
Ela moy la radio to la bawaran on telel.
No, andra silo ko wa don tolbe kullelula.
No, we attended a naming ceremony.
Have you guys discussed this issue before?
O al kalim ku kacala ban janning albinaba.
Ani kanyo moyle ten bar nanaman kacha komsa ko la tem kanyo moyle pour kana temba pour ka discourse ten komsa o sifa la ten banna ko mulunda bari fatata.
Well, our things were our affairs were similar but different. We communicate with each other, but we never discussed anything like this.
Okay. You've said two things that are almost identical with what he said.
Kuma fula fo Jammeh alonko anala kumodul mulunda. Kuma fula.
The first is the tantankoso.
Follow wolam tantankoso di.
That proverb you remember.
Masalo nyi misalo nyi.
If you step on the stick, you said that one. And then a stick in the sea or wood in the sea can never change into crocodile. And you said it in almost exactly the same context. And for the same questions. That is a strange coincidence.
We are all Mandinka indigents. And myself and Damfa, we are all from Jara. And our villages are close to one another.
And you were both rebels in Liberia.
And yes.
You both attacked Gambia.
And
you were both caught.
Yes.
You were both tried and sentenced.
Yes.
You both spent time together at the prisons.
Yes.
You still communicate together. Still communicate with each other.
Yes.
And you have discussed this issue.
What is that?
The issue. Did you come together to the TRRC?
Yes, we once came here before because we were called before. No, but we were in different offices.
But all we want to establish is that you have discussed your situation, your case, and what you're going to talk about to the TRRC. Did you?
Returning Damfa, Falid Manglu Nene Sitale, Brunal Nata TRRC Jang, Albem Memfola, Aliako Kachale, Alidam Manglu Tema Bang,
Purkasi Kakachanda Mal Temare. Hani ma sitem purka discourse tem purka kachanda munga nyomoyle bari ini mozi kachanya onyo bari na kol mulundale bari ifatale.
Well, our affairs.
Ita kacha because ngai kuma ka mo mfore ko sa jalo simo beloro foron ka ni kuma ka o man ga dingo bela porana solo sagat man dol membore jara.
Yes. Well, we've
kuma ka na bela ko jara dingo fe mere ko man de ka mo etendro ni ay nga ba fala.
We would proceed and Mr. Chair, if you want to intervene on it.
No, just on a third point that you had raised, there was some similarity in that one. That was the point where said you follow Kukoi, he would leave you behind.
Yes, and that is a third one.
said exactly the same. The same words here and there.
Yes.
So it's good that you raised the coincidence.
Yes, that's right. But proceed, please.
Sorry,
after Sirif Bajub told you that Kukoi, if he takes you, he would leave you behind. And
before we came, I was staying with Sirif Ba, and we were responsible for the border with Mfamarakoli. But at the border there, Famarakoli was our leader.
What was his rank?
Famarakoli atela makamu munete.
At the time was a colonel.
At that time he was a colonel.
Sirif Ba Batenoma.
Followed by Sirif Ba.
So they go no.
Sirif Ba, what was his rank?
Sirif Ba lo makamu munete.
Sirif Ba fana be colonel ngamra Famara be lieutenant colonel in full colonel Sirif Ba be lieutenant colonel.
When Famara was colonel, Sirif Ba was lieutenant colonel.
Okay. Proceed.
So after
when he told me this,
so
but despite all that, we are staying together, we sit down together, we chat together. But if you look at it naturally, people who have been staying together and from the same place to come, there's certain things happen which you know, all of you come to know about it.
So
that's why Kukoi, when he was taking us out from there, to bring us to Senegal, he made some papers. But that paper, it was an ECOWAS document. But if you look at it properly, it is, if you look at it, you will think that it is a Senegalese document, but it is an ECOWAS document. If you use it...
Mr. Witness, do you realize that ECOWAS does not issue documents by itself? It issues documents through states. So it could have been an ECOWAS document issued by Senegal.
Ako fay ñing kala mudala ko ECOWAS wo kayto di ECOWAS ka kayto di mansal mankolla bare buka di mo kunkilina teng
that is not the interpretation. Even our ID cards today are ECOWAS ID cards, but issued by Gambia. Senegal has exactly the same thing, but issued by Senegal.
Han ID cardo masala kadi bari amang ke ECOWAS le kadi bari hani Senegal fana be wala nyama. Senegal ID cardo fana be wala nyama.
I think this point is still missed.
Hani akamem fosain wolem ECOWAS itelela ko be safarin kaito bala na ID card ni ajube ECOWAS kaito lem bari na mansa kundale kadi ko bitu ya dada ko Gambia talom bari wo be ECOWAS la kangole ba koma Senegal fanan ta dada ta wole nyama ko ika ID card di nyamin.
So malon kaito nya asoro nyame.
I don't know how he was able to lay hands
whose
on this
picture was on the document?
Mala na talo be kaito bala.
Yeah?
Jumala na talo be kaito bala.
Natal tabar.
There was no picture on it.
Natal tabar kaito jire no bara kaito nya wartal domande.
Well, there were papers, but a little bit big. But if you use it, in African countries, they don't trouble you anywhere.
But
I don't know how he was able to lay hands on those documents, because he's somebody who is intelligent. Because there were many things that he brings to us. Some are there that you will be aware of. But some the things that also happen you will not be aware of. But just like a government to pass information to each other.
So
and we used to inform each other whenever something comes up. Like in a government, something happens, well, you tell your colleague, well, I don't know whether you are aware of it, something, this and this and this has come up. So this is how we share information amongst ourselves.
But in the end, you were able to travel.
When we
were issued those documents, He traveled from the place called Danani.
Africa Coast la border la water.
It's at the Ivory Coast border.
So travel to na wala ndunda na Mali.
We traveled and came into Mali.
Africa Coast bang.
We left Ivory Coast.
So ndunda Mali.
We entered Mali.
Border Mali.
We left Mali.
Ndunda na Senegal.
We came into Senegal.
How many of you?
If I can remember, we were 18.
Do you know everybody?
Ye be tolo ne ba.
Si tol kumando ni manyina.
I can call their names if I haven't forgotten, if I can remember.
Tell us.
Afanyamba.
The follow the Mbalo Kanteh.
Myself, Mbalo Kanteh.
Omar Damfa.
Omar Damfa.
Suleiman Sar.
Suleiman Sar.
Ebasano.
Ebasano.
Ramojiba.
Ramojiba.
Kabiro Dembajang.
Kabiro Dembajang.
Ablai Sonko.
Ablai Sonko.
Suandi Kamara.
Suandi Kamara.
Ngansuwali.
Ngansuwali.
Bambadrame.
Bambadrame.
Kafai Wadrame.
Some call him Wadrame.
Laujaju.
Laujaju.
Kemo Jallo.
Kemo Jallo.
Abdurrahman Balde.
Abdurrahman Balde.
Esa Balde.
Esa Balde.
Ngaklo nyunumale.
Well, these are some of the names I can remember. Yes, for the time being, I can remember this.
Around 14, huh? Okay, proceed, please. How about Drame? Yaya Drame?
Yaya Drame.
Yes.
Yaya Drame.
Yaya Drame was part of us.
Yaya Drame for Nambeyer.
Okay, proceed, please.
And Jubril Jallo.
And Jibril Jallo.
Jubril Jallo.
Proceed.
And then?
Where did you go?
Altara Minto.
Senegal.
Senegal Minto.
Nara Senegal.
When we came to Senegal,
Nara Tambakunda.
We went to Tambakunda.
But Tambakunda.
But when we disembarked at Tambakunda,
Aranga Suandining Fanketraje, Wale Bentolina running Karamojiva.
By that time, Swandi and Karamojiba were ahead of us, so we found them at Tambakunda. We found them there. But when we met them there,
so he
talked to Kukoi.
So
then they told us that Ablai Sonko was at Sokon.
So when Keba Sano.
And he was with Keba Sano. Myself, Keba Sano, and Kabiro Demba. We went together to Sokon. By that time, Karamojiba and Ablai Sonko, they were already at Sokon.
So Swandi
and the others were at Tambakunda. Then we went to Sokon.
So Jam Tambakunda.
8 people were at Tambakunda. I think 8 of us also were at Sokon, if I can remember properly.
Did Kukoi give you any money?
Kukoi kodo di allalba.
When we were coming, yes, he gave us the fare. Even our food. On the way, he gave us everything.
Did he give you weapons?
When we were coming, no. We didn't come. Well, one can do it, but the way we came, nobody can travel with a weapon at that time.
Not even pistols?
Before we arrived.
No.
Did he give you money to buy such weapons?
Ay kodo di Allah ban pour ka o kidi sifa kidol samba.
Ra kodo de pour ka o kidol sa.
Kidol sa
Ani. No. Ma di nasilo kan pour ka kidol sa ban narun ko la Senegal.
He didn't give us the money on the way to buy guns, but when we came up to Senegal,
so birimbe Senegal.
When we were at Senegal,
so time wala Adara kido doling.
That was the time when he went to acquire some weapons.
Banye ko sa pistol ni wala ikay fankol famane kom sa puraldro.
But it was this type of guns which were not effective, just the guns they used to hunt birds with.
So
These were the type of guns he was able to acquire.
So but what I may use in Tolkien time.
But the strategy he used on us at that time,
Senegal government government.
he said to us he has already discussed with the Senegalese government, so which was led by Abdou Diouf at the time.
So they support
they will give us all support,
and
they will negotiate also how to come into the Gambia. The first negotiation, how it should have taken place, was to negotiate between us and Yaya Jammeh, so that we can come home.
But the plan of
But the real plan behind was that when we came and reached the shores,
so
he will believe you.
So and
in his belief or in his trust,
so
remove him will be very quick,
because
we had the experience,
capabilities
and we were capable of doing it.
So
in any way.
Mr. Chair, perhaps we should leave it at that.